Everybody, we're going to get started. This is day 36, solving rational equations. First thing that we're going to do is fill out this list of directions. There's 5 steps when we work these problems, and it's hard to keep everything straight. So it's a really good idea that you get this written down. And then what you'll notice is that for the problems that we do on the notes, I make you write out all 5 steps. But then on the homework, I really only have you list 3 of them, but the more writing them down 5 times in the notes will help you remember what you're doing on the homework. So let's get started. First step, and this is what I said day 1 of our rational functions unit. First, just a reminder that rational just is a fancy word for fraction. And our first step when we work these problems is going to be to factor the denominators. Okay, factor all denominators. The denominators are the bottom. And find the LCD. Remember, the LCD is the lowest common denominator. And we had to identify that last class. For every problem, we identified the lowest common denominator. So we should be experts at that. Next, we're going to determine any values that would make the expressions undefined. We also call these domain restrictions. And those tie in directly with the LCD. Once you figure out what the LCD is, you know the undefined values. So these tell you the LCD helps you figure out those undefined values. Next, you're going to multiply each term. So you're going to multiply each term by the LCD. This is really important that you notice that it is the numerators only. Last class, to get a common denominator, we had to multiply the numerator and denominator by a lowest common denominator, by the LCD or anything that was missing. This time it's a little bit different. You only multiply the numerator, so only the stuff in top. And you'll get 5 problems worth of practice with me. Next, you're going to cancel out any denominators, or you're really eliminating any fractions. But what ends up happening is that you cancel all the denominators. Cancel all the denominators and rewrite. Oh, this is important. And this is probably like 4 out of 5 problems you end up solving like a quadratic, where you have to think of, okay, what 2 things will multiply to give you this, that'll add to give you this. So most everything is solved with fast factoring. And last, we're going to solve for x. And make sure the solution isn't part of the undefined values list. Okay, this is important. We cannot forget this. We have to make sure that the solution isn't part of the undefined values list. So that's double checking that it's not part of this, because if it is, it can't be a solution. So please don't forget this last part. You got to make sure that it isn't part of the undefined values list. So again, these problems have like 5 steps to solve them. Let's get started. Problem number 1. So these have an equal sign. They're an equation, so it's different than what we've been doing. We're going to actually solve for x and get a value. First thing that we have to identify is the lowest common denominator. So taking a look, this has an x and this has a 4. If we want the lowest common denominator and they have nothing in common, usually you just multiply them together. So my lowest common denominator is going to be 4x. So the lowest common denominator is going to be 4x. And as soon as you identify the lowest common denominator, you can automatically jot down your undefined values list. So x cannot be equal to, anytime you have an x, it doesn't matter what the exponent is, it's just 0. Yes, good job. Your undefined values list, the very last step before you write your solution, you have to make sure that you double check that it's not part of the solution. Don't forget it, and we'll go through it together. Step number 3 says that we have to multiply each term by the LCD. So we have to multiply each term by the LCD. Multiply by, and I'm going to put what we're multiplying by. We're multiplying by 4x. So I'm going to multiply by 4x, 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 and you only multiply the numerators. Okay, you don't put it on the top and the bottom. And I kind of have to write it diagonally because it's too little to write it any other way. Next, we're going to cancel or like eliminate fractions. We're going to cancel. Sorry, my pen is being crazy. Okay, next we're going to cancel those fractions. We're going to cancel or eliminate those fractions. We're canceling denominators and getting rid of those fractions. And so this is how it works. If I multiplied by 4x, I now have an x on the top and an x on the bottom. So I get to mark out the x. But I still have to multiply 1 times 4. Next, I have a 4 on top and a 4 on bottom, so the 4s can cancel. But I still have to multiply the 3 times x. Next, I have a 4 on top and a 4 on bottom, so those 4s can cancel, but I still have to multiply x times x. So what ends up happening is I have no more fractions as I go to rewrite. So as I rewrite, all my fractions just canceled. No more fractions because no more denominators. And in the numerator, I have 1 times 4. So I have 4 minus 3 times x. So minus 3 times x equals x times x. So x squared. Up at the top, it said anytime you get an x squared, we're going to probably set it equal to 0 and solve it. So that's what we're going to do. Not probably, we are. Anything with an x squared, we're going to set it equal to 0 and solve. When we do that, we take a look at wherever the x squared is. If it's positive, leave it and move everything else. And so this x squared is positive, so I'm going to take over and I'm going to move both of these over. So I'm going to add 3x and subtract 4. And now I will be equal to 0. And so now if I'm equal to 0, I can just go ahead and rewrite it as something factored. So what two things can multiply to give you 4 that could add or subtract to make 3? Four and 1 will work. So I put 2 x's and I've got 1 and 4. And then my middle term is positive. So my bigger number has to be positive. And if I have positive 4, I would have to subtract 1 to get 3. And I need to double check. Negative times a positive will give me a negative. So I factored correctly. And then from here, anytime I have factors, finding solutions is pretty easy. X is equal to what and what? 1 and negative 4. Okay. Are either one of these numbers part of my undefined values list? No, 0 is the only number in my undefined values list. So I can list my solution. X is equal to the solution set with You can put them in any order you want. I don't care at this point. That is my solution. It's going to take a few more problems for it to start like solidifying in your brain. So let's do another one. Next problem, lowest common denominator, but I cannot do it because this is not factored. I could factor out an x first. I have to rewrite it and factor out an x. If I factor out an x, then I'm left with x minus 1. All right, now if I look at my denominators, and this doesn't even have a denominator, doesn't matter. So this has an x minus 1 and an x. This just has an x minus 1. So my lowest common denominator has to be both of them. So we're going to use that as my lowest common denominator. So x times x minus 1. As soon as I identify my lowest common denominator, I can already identify my undefined values list. X cannot be equal to what and what. I have two x's, so I have to have two undefined values. What and what? Yes, 0 and positive 1. Okay, we cannot forget that we've got to check our solution before we put it over here for undefined values. Next, we will multiply by the LCD. So multiply by x times x minus 1. And I'm multiplying all of the numerators. So I have to multiply by x times x minus 1. X times x minus 1. X times x minus 1. I have to multiply everything by that lowest common denominator, and that's going to help me cancel out the fractions. That's my next step. Okay, you're canceling out all the denominators or getting rid of the fractions. And so when I look at this one, that's nice. The entire thing cancels out. So both of these go ahead and cancel. Anything over itself, they cancel. This one, the x minus 1 and x minus 1 will cancel, but I'm still left with the x, so I still have to multiply these two things together. For this one, 1 times anything is just itself, so it's going to turn into just that, and I need to rewrite it. So I get 2 equals x. Oh, I can go ahead and distribute though. I need to distribute as I rewrite it. So this will be x times x, which is x squared. And then x times negative 1, which is minus x, equals 2x. Okay, this is when I said anything that has an x squared is going to solve like a quadratic. So we have to get it set equal to 0. And I have to combine like terms. So I noticed that, oh, I got 2 equal signs. Not on purpose. It's Friday. Okay, so that should be a plus. So we can put together these two x terms, and I can go ahead and subtract 2 at the end. So I'm going to rewrite it, doing those two things. So I get 0 is equal to x squared. If I have 2 and I subtract 1, I just have 1. So plus 1x minus 2. At this point, I can factor. And this is fast factoring. What two things can multiply to give me 2? They can add or subtract to give me 1. Yeah, 1 and 2, that's it. So 1 and 2, the middle term is positive, so the bigger number needs to be positive. If I have 2, I would have to subtract 1 to make 1. And I also need to double check negative times a positive will multiply to make a negative. So I factored correctly. I did good. And so I know that my x's are +1 and -2. Before I come over here and I put them as a solution, I have to double check. Are any of those numbers on my undefined values list? Yeah, if it is on the undefined values list, so x cannot be equal to 0 or 1. Well, it says x is equal to 1. It can't be. So we have to throw this number off the list. It doesn't work. So my answer is only yes, I just got to get my pen to come back. Yeah, so my solution set is only x is equal to -2. That is my solution. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes to just practice this skill. I know we've only done 2 problems, but at the very least, you might be able to go through and check your problems, see, okay, do I need to factor any of the denominators? Can I identify the LCD? And if you can also identify undefined values. Go see how far that you can get in 10 minutes. And you can also come check your work with me. Hello. I don't think so. Did you put them on the table to sign into the counselor? Like on the desk, you gotta sign yourself in?
Oh no, I went to the office and I went to go check.
I hope you find them. I know that that's very stressful.
Oh, 17 days probably less than fair. One out. I'm seeing. You think all of us in the something? Yeah. No. Excuse me. I did, but I just can't do the same thing. You too. Um. Okay. That's it. Yep.
So, like, that has a 6, so that at least has to have a 6. That has an S squared, so that at least has to have an. Yeah, so I mean, it's the same idea that this one has a 5, this one has a 5x. Okay, one's missing. So here, with this one. That one has a 6, that one has a 2, so it's missing a times 3. That one has an x squared, that one just has an x, so it's missing an x. So the lowest common denominator, like you can bring this up to 6, but you wouldn't really bring it. Mhm. I do. You've got a few more minutes to practice these skills. It's good stuff.
Space time or. I'm sitting with it. And what the hell is that? Nobody see, but this knows you. You probably. No, there's like another thing for she told one of my friends to slap him on the toes. And you did it? Yeah, well, he's no longer there. Oh, man. Jordan.
All right, let's finish our notes. We've got a couple more problems. Next problem. This has an x minus 8 and this has a 2. Well, I think our lowest common denominator is going to be 2 times x minus 8 because you have to have everything present. So our lowest common denominator ends up being 2 times x minus 8. As soon as you've identified your lowest common denominator, you can identify undefined values. For this one, there's no x out there. There's only one x that's shown in the LCD, one of them. So you only have one undefined value, and it's going to be 8. So x cannot be equal to 8. Over here, we've got to multiply all of our terms by 2 times x minus 8. So each one of these is going to get multiplied by 2 times x minus 8. So 2 times x minus 8. 2 times x minus 8. 2 times x minus 8. We have to multiply everything. Multiply by LCD. And then next we have to cancel the fractions. So, or cancel the denominators. Either way, same thing. So now we go through and we see what cancels. So for this one, we have an x minus 8 and an x minus 8. So these cancel, but I'm still going to have to multiply 2 times this stuff. So as I rewrite it, I can go ahead and distribute this in and make sure that I multiply the 2. For our next term, the 2's will cancel, but I still am left with the x minus 8, so I have to multiply these. And then for my last term, the x minus 8 will cancel, so I still got to multiply 11 times 2. So now I can go and rewrite. So for this first term, I have to multiply 2 times 2 makes 4x. 2 times negative 5 makes negative 10. And then x times x is going to make x squared. So plus x squared. I can already tell I'm going to have to solve like a quadratic. X times negative 8 is negative 8x equals 2 times 11 or 22. If I'm solving like a quadratic, then I'm going to figure out where my x squared term is. If it's positive, I'm going to leave it and move everything else. For this one, I have to combine like terms. I have a 4x and a minus 8x, so I'm going to have to put these together. Yep. And I'm also going to have to bring over the 22, so I'm going to have to subtract 22, and I'll rewrite everything with my x squared term first. So I end up with x squared. Yes, you are correct. Minus 4x, and then negative 32, all equals 0. As soon as you're set equal to 0, you can solve. This is a quadratic. It's fast factoring. So we have to think of what two things can we multiply by that can multiply to make 32, but add or subtract to make 4. 8 and 4 will work. So 4 and 8. My middle term is negative, so my bigger number needs to be negative. And if I have negative 8, I would have to add 4 to make negative 4. And I got to double check. Positive times a negative is going to multiply to make a negative. So good. I am fully factored. When I'm fully factored, I can identify my solutions. My solutions are going to be negative 4 and positive 8. Before I can box those solutions and put them over here, I have to double check that they are not on the undefined values list. So are any of these on the undefined values list? 8. So 8 is called a extraneous solution. 8 is considered an extraneous solution. Extraneous just means extra. It doesn't work. So my only solution is negative 4. It is very important, even if one of the solutions don't work, that you show me that you solved and got both solutions, and then you mark it out. That's very important. You have to put both solutions, even if one doesn't work. You have to show me it doesn't work. All right, let's do another one. That one was so fun. Let's do another. The next problem, we've got to make sure everything is factored. Yep, everything is, oh, no. This can be factored. So I need to rewrite. I've got x and then x minus 3 plus x over 2 equals, this is GCF factoring. These are both divisible by 2, so I need to divide out 2. 6 divided by 2 is going to be 3. All right, so now looking at my GCF, my lowest common denominator is going to be 2 times x minus 3, so that it will cancel out all the denominators. So my lowest common denominator is going to be 2 times x minus 3. And as soon as I know my lowest common denominator, I can always identify my undefined values. So x cannot be equal to, and my lowest common denominator, I only have one x, so I only have one value. X cannot be 3. Next, I have to multiply everything by the LCD. Multiply by the LCD, and we're going to cancel those denominators. Okay, remember that we're multiplying by the LCD so that we can cancel the denominators. So we have to multiply by 2 times x minus 3, 2 times x minus 3, 2 times x minus 3. And then I go cancel out my denominators. So for my first fraction, the x minus 3 is going to cancel. But I still have to make sure that I multiply x and 2 together. For the next term, the 2's are going to cancel. But I still have to make sure that I distribute in the x as I rewrite it. And for my last term, the whole denominator will cancel and so will my LCD. So I'm just left with 2. So I'm going to rewrite it. For the first term, I have 2 times x or 2x plus x times x is x squared. Yay, we have another quadratic. X times negative 3 is minus 3x equals 2. Anytime I solve a quadratic, I look for the x squared term. If it's positive, you leave it alone and move everything else. So it looks like that I'm going to leave this x squared. I'm going to have to put together the x terms and move over the 2. So I'm going to put these 2 terms together. And I'm going to have to subtract 2. And I'm going to rewrite everything. So I have x squared. 3, negative 3 plus 2 is going to just give me negative 1x minus 2 is equal to 0. So as soon as I have it equal to 0, I can fast factor and try and figure out what 2 things can multiply to make 2. They could add or subtract to make 1. 2 and 1. So I got 1 and 2. My middle term is negative, so my bigger number needs to be negative. And then if I have negative 2, I would have to add 1 to make negative 1. And I have to double check a positive times a negative will multiply to make a negative. So I'm good. I'm fully factored. I can identify what my solutions could possibly be. So they could be negative 1 or positive 2. And before I put them over here as solutions, I got to check my undefined values list. Is anything on the undefined values list? No, so I can include them both in the solution. X is equal to negative 1 and positive 2. Again, the order doesn't really matter. I'm not going to be nitpicky. Typically on an assessment, they'll be in numerical order, but I'm not going to be nitpicky about that. Alrighty, we got one more problem that we're going to do together, and then you'll have the rest of class to do your assignment. Next problem. We have to figure out the LCD, but first we have to make sure that everything is fully factored. Oops, this is not. What does that factor into?
AD. Oh. Or they have equals.
This might be a hint. What does this factor into? It's a difference of perfect squares. X squared minus 16 factors into something. What?
What did you say?
No. Difference of perfect squares. It's going to factor into x plus something and x minus something.
Oh.
Yes. Difference of perfect squares. Well, it's not just 4. It's x plus 4 and x minus 4. Our LCD is going to be x plus 4, x minus 4. So again, anytime you have to factor, look at what you also already have. Like it's a good indication of like, that's a hint. And that's one of the factors. So you can use it to your advantage to help you factor. So the LCD is x minus 4 and x plus 4. We're going to have to multiply by the LCD. And I can identify my undefined values. What can x not be equal to? 4 and -4. We got to make sure that we double check at the end for our solution. And then now we're ready to multiply by the LCD to cancel out the fractions. Or denominators. I don't care how you want to phrase it to yourself. So we've got x minus 4 times x plus 4. Remember, we're only multiplying the numerators. X minus 4 and x plus 4. And then we will cancel out any common factors. So starting with the first term, the whole denominator is going to cancel, and I'm just going to be left with 16. All this cancels. Over here, just the x minus 4 will cancel. And so I have to make sure when I rewrite it that I distribute into this term way over here. So I get 16 is equal to 2 times x, so 2x, and 2 times positive 4, so plus 8. This is a simple two-step equation. What do we do first? Okay. Subtract 8. Sorry. There we go. We get 16 minus 8 is 8 equals 2x. And very last, we need to do what? Yep, divide by 2. And when we do that, we get x equals 4. Before we bring it over here, is that on my undefined values list? Yeah, I guess that's one way to say it. It don't be working out. So when it don't be working out, we get no solution. I would like to point out that on your assignment for today, you're welcome. I went through and I created an answer bank. So as you're working these problems, there's an answer bank, and there is one question where you end up with no solution. And it looks like this is actually a different answer bank, because there's only one fraction on the answer bank, not two. I must have changed that one. But in any case, there is an answer bank on your homework paper, so make sure that you use it. And if you have any questions, please come up and let's talk about it. We are done for today, and you have 45 minutes. Yes.